If I could follow you around for 1 week, not as your coach, not as your friend, just as a set of eyes, I think I could tell you exactly why you're tired. Not the tired that sleep fixes, the other one. The one where you get 8 hours of sleep and you still wake up feeling like you already lost. I would not need your blood work. I would not need your step count. I would just need to watch you for 7 days. And then I would tell you the same thing I tell a woman who has been rowing in a shell for 3 days and cannot understand why the boat will not move. You are rushing the slide. You are pulling like your life depends on it, then giving yourself no room to run. And your body is doing exactly what a boat does when you rush it. It is slowing down while you work harder. Today, I'm going to teach you the one thing about rowing that changed how I train and how I coach. I am going to show you why the recovery, the part that you've been treating like wasted time, is actually where all your power gets made. Greetings and welcome to the Elevated Flo Playbook. I'm your host, Coach Flo, the Black Rowing Queen. The Elevated Flo Playbook is a solo series of the Elevated Flo podcast, where I help high-achieving women of color who are current or former athletes go from stressed, burnt out, and overwhelmed to mentally and physically at peace without having to change jobs or escape on vacation. That last part matters today, without changing jobs and without escaping on vacation. Because what I'm giving you in this episode does not require you to leave anything. It requires you to change one ratio. Last episode, I talked about what it costs your body to be the only one in the room. We talked about belonging as a physical requirement, not a preference. If you have not heard that one, I would suggest that you go back and listen or watch it, because this episode is the answer to the question a lot of people had after that particular episode. So people were thinking, I hear you, Coach. My nervous system is carrying something. So what do I actually do on that any given Tuesday that I spoke about? Well, this is the Tuesday answer. Here is where we're going. I'm going to teach you what a rowing stroke actually is, and I promise you, you do not have to care about rowing for this to land for you. Then I'm going to show you the single most common mistake I see in beginners and elite crews, because they make the same one. Then we're going to put your life in the boat and look at it honestly. And then I'm giving you 3 things to practice this week. Let's get in the boat together. When it comes to rowing, most people think rowing is pulling. People will always say, oh, you must have strong arms. You watch a race, you see arms and oars and a lot of visible effort, and your brain says, okay, they're pulling as hard as they can for as long as they can, and the fastest one wins. But I've also heard people say that rowing looks peaceful and it looks like it doesn't take a lot of effort. But that's not what is actually happening. A rowing stroke has 2 halves, and they are not equal, and they are not supposed to be. The first half is the drive. The blade goes in the water at the catch, and you push with your legs, then swing your back or your body open, then guide the blade or guide the handles or draw your arms into your body. So most people hear it or are taught the way legs, body, arms in that order every time. But that's where the power gets applied to the water. That is the working part of the stroke. That's the work. The second half is the recovery. Hands away or extend the arms, pivot at the waist forward where your hips go towards the bow of the boat, and you slide back up towards the front of the boat to set up for the next stroke. Now, here's the part that changes everything. At a normal training rate, One stroke takes about 2.5 seconds. The drive takes less than a second of that. Everything else, more than half of the stroke, sometimes 2/3 of it, is the recovery. So say that back to yourself. In the sport that looks like nothing but effort, or it looks very peaceful, most of the time is spent not applying effort. The ratio has a name, or that part of the stroke has a name, and we call it ratio. 1 count on the drive, and depending on the coach, 2 to 3 counts on the recovery. Coaches say it on the water constantly. Ratio or slow your slide. We say it to all athletes. We say it to a woman who got in the boat for the first time, or a guy that thinks that he can muscle his way into moving the boat, because it never stops being the thing that makes the boat actually move. And here's why. The boat is at its fastest when the oar is actually out of the water. So it's after the drive phase, right when the blade comes out of the water, and then when it is perpendicular to the boat. For the entire recovery, the boat is running. It's gliding. No one is pulling. The shell is carrying the speed you just made. That glide has a name to it, and we call it the run of the boat. The run is basically free speed. It's the return on your work that you've put in, and you only collect if you let the boat run. So I want you to sit with that, because it's not a metaphor yet. It's physics. The boat does not go fast because you pulled hard. The boat goes fast because you pulled or pushed, and then you got out of the way. Now, let me show you what happens when you don't get out of the way. What happens when you do not let the boat run? There's a mistake in rowing that has a name, and we call it rushing the slide. It happens like this. You take a stroke, and the recovery feels slow, and something in you does not like how that feels. So you come up to the slide faster. You throw your body towards the front of the boat, chasing the next stroke, because it feels like more strokes means more speed. And what actually happens is the boat gets slower. Here's the physics of it. In a single, for example, the rower is about 80% of the weight in the shell. So when you rush up the slide, you're throwing most of the weight in the boat towards the stern, while the boat is trying to run forward towards the bow. So you're fighting your own boat. There's a word for that too. We call it checking the boat. And you could actually feel it. The boat kind of sits down in the water, and it feels like something has grabbed it and pulled it down instead of it gliding on top of the water. The split goes the wrong way. The split is the number that tells you how fast the boat is actually moving, no matter how hard the work feels. So now you're breathing harder, working harder, and the number says you are going slower than you were before you started trying. You made a little bit of power, and then you took it back before the boat could use it. That's the whole mistake, and it does not belong to beginners. Fatigue brings it out. Pressure brings it out. Racing next to another crew that you feel like it's gonna beat you brings it out. I spent 3 weeks this summer coaching at the Craftsbury Outdoor Center up in Vermont. Blue water, green everywhere you look. Fog coming off the pond in the morning like the water was breathing. And I was out in the launch before 7:30 most mornings, or in a single, because we coach from a single as well. And I coached, 20 to 30 people. I coached 5 to 7 different groups of anywhere between 3 to 7 athletes in each group. We rotated through coaches, women, men, children, every level. The youngest person I coached was 12 years old, and the oldest person, I didn't actually coach her, but she was there, was 86. 86, still getting in a boat. Now, I want you to hold on to that, because I'm going to come back to that 86. Now, here's the conversation I want to spend some real time on. One of the athletes that I coached came up to me and said, I don't understand why I'm going so slow. I've seen other people who have worse technique than mine go faster than me. What am I doing wrong? And she wasn't wrong. Her technique was pretty good. It was nice and clean, and I saw improvement over the week. Here's basically what I told her. Technique tells the boat what to do with your power. Technique does not make the power. If there's not enough strength underneath the stroke, there's nothing for good technique to organize. So think about what the run actually is. The boat only glides as far as the speed you made on the drive, right? A stronger athlete makes more speed in under a second and gets a longer, quieter glide out of it. She's not rowing harder than you. She is rowing less often for more boat. Basically, a weak stroke, short run. And when the run is short, you have to take the next stroke sooner and the next one sooner. And now you are rating high, going nowhere, calling it effort. So basically, if you have strength buys you the recovery. That's the part I need women to listen to and sit with, because you have been sold the opposite for 20 plus years. Move more, walk more, get your steps in. Walking is a starting point. It is not a strategy. You have been losing muscle since your 30s, and it picks up speed every decade. You do not train against it. And no amount of walking is going to hold you up at 70. Muscle will. Every pound of muscle you build is work you no longer have to grind for. I'll say that again. Every pound of muscle you build is work you no longer have to grind for. Stronger legs means the stairs cost you less. A stronger back means picking up your grandbaby is not an event you plan around. And strong hips mean you get off the floor without the whole production and aching and groaning. That is the run. You put the hard work in on purpose in a defined block, a few hours a week, and then your body carries you between the strokes for free. The alternative is what a lot of you are doing right now. Nothing built underneath you, so every ordinary thing costs full effort, and you take the next stroke sooner and sooner because you cannot afford to glide. You do not need to work more. You need to be strong enough to stop working so often. And that is a hard sell. Doing less and getting more is the hardest sell to most people. So let's take that out of the boat and put it into your calendar. You are a high achieving woman. You are 40 something, 40 plus. You played something, ran something, jumped something, rode something. And somewhere in your body, there is still an athlete who remembers what it felt like to be good at hard things. And now you are in a corporate job where you have to be excellent to be considered adequate, where you are managing the work and managing how the work is perceived and managing how you are perceived while you do it. That is a second job nobody put on your job description, and not everybody understands. So what do? You do what you have always done. You drive. Alarm goes off and you're already behind. You drive through the morning, you drive through back-to-back meetings, and you eat your lunch at your desk while you answer a message or read emails. You drive through pickup, dinner, laundry, your mother's phone call, your kids' practices, the thing you promised your girlfriend you would look at. You drive until you fall asleep with the TV on, and then you get back up and you drive again. And on the weekend, when there's finally a gap, what do? You feel it, because the gap makes you feel anxious. The gap feels like falling behind. The gap feels like FOMO, missing out on something. You're rushing the slide. Your life has no recovery in it. And so nothing you do gets a chance to run. Nothing you do gets a chance to glide. And here's the part that makes me want to reach through this screen right now, because you are still working hard and the results are still going down. You have concluded that the problem is you, that your body is failing, that this is just what 40 plus looks like, that your metabolism betrayed you and your energy is gone, and this is aging, and you had better just get used to it. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Your split is going the wrong way because your ratio is broken. You are putting in the same power and collecting none of the run, none of the glide. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that stress, it's all in your head, because it's not. It's in your shoulder and your jaw and your sleep and your waistline and your sciatic nerve, all the things. Your body does not know the difference between a deadline and something chasing you. It runs the same program either way. And that program was built to run in bursts, followed by recovery. Burst, recovery. Drive, run, recovery. You are asking your body to run one continuous drive phase that started somewhere around 20 years ago. And then you wonder why you cannot lose weight, why you snap at people you love, why you can't sit still without your leg bouncing, and why you were exhausted at 3 p.m. and wide awake at midnight. That is not a discipline problem. That is not a character problem. And that is that is checking the boat. Your own effort is slowing your boat down. I want to pause right there for a second. The conversations that come after these episodes, the ones where women actually say out loud what is going on with them, those happen inside the Afterflow. That is my Patreon community, the Elevated Woman Inner Circle. It's where I go deeper than I can go here, where I answer the questions that come in, and where the women who are doing this work get to be around each other instead of doing it alone. I got a call today from a woman that was saying that she felt like she needed to see a psychiatrist because she did not understand why she cannot just slow down. So those are the type of conversations that we have in the Elevated Flo Inner Circle. If this episode is hitting a nerve, that is the room for you. Come find us in the Afterflow. The link will be in the description. Now, let me give you the actual work. Now, before I give you the actual work, let me clear something up first, because I think this word has been ruined. Recovery is not a bubble bath. Recovery is not a spa day that you have to earn. Recovery is not the reward you get after you finished, because you are never going to finish. So that reward is never going to come. Recovery in the boat is not a break from the stroke. The recovery is part of the stroke. It is not optional and it is not extra. You cannot take the next stroke without it. There is no version of rowing that skips the recovery. That is what I need you to understand about your life. Recovery is not what happens after the work. It is the half of the work you have been skipping. That's exactly why the E in my Elevate framework is exhale, and why it comes first, not last, first, before lead yourself, before energize, before you value yourself, before activate, transform, and excel. Because you cannot lead yourself from a body that is stuck in a dry phase. You cannot make a good decision about your career, your marriage, your health, while your nervous system is convinced something is chasing you. Exhale comes first because the boat has to run before it can go anywhere. And inside exhale is where I keep the breathe framework: balance, regulate, energize, align, train, harmonize, and exhale. That is the actual mechanics of how you build recovery back into a life that has none. Now, here is what I want you to walk away with. Recovery lives at 3 different lengths, and most women are missing all 3. The first one is what I call the micro recovery, and it happens in seconds. This is a recovery inside the stroke. In your day, it is the 10 seconds between the meeting that ended and the message you are about to open. It's the breath you take in the car before you walk into the house and become someone's mother or wife. Right now, you have 0 of these. You go straight from catch to catch with no run in between. And 10 seconds sounds like nothing, but you take somewhere around 20,000 breaths a day. Almost none of them are on purpose. That is your regulate. Longer exhale than inhale. That is the whole technique. 4 in, hold for 6 or 8, and then 8 out. Your body reads a long exhale as a signal that you are safe. It will start to come down whether you believe it or not. It is how you regulate your nervous system. The second is the daily recovery, minutes to an hour. This is the piece I am most protective of. It is where blue and green spaces come in, not because it's pretty, because it works. Water and trees and open sky do something to your attention that a screen cannot do. Your brain stops scanning for threats and starts just taking things in. You do not have to go to Vermont because I just spent 3 weeks there, one of the most beautiful places I've ever coached, and I still came home to Dallas. Lake Ray Hubbard is not Hosbert Pond, but it's still water. It still counts. 20 minutes outside, no earbuds, no podcasts, not even mine. Let your eyes go long. That is your align. And the third is the seasonal recovery, days to week. This one is the deload. Every serious training program has one built in because the adaptation does not happen during the hard block. It happens after it. You do not get stronger in the workout. You get stronger in the 72 hours after if you let your body do the repair. 94% of women in the C-suite played sports. 80% of female executives in the Fortune 500 were athletes. You know what every single one of them learned in the sport, whether she can name it or not? Periodization, hard block, easy block, season on, off season. That is the thing that sport gave you that you left on the field, and it is the thing your corporate calendar has never once given back to you. That is your harmonize, and that is your train. Training is what you do on purpose. What you are doing now is grinding, and grinding is just the dry phase with no plan. Now, let me come back to that 86-year-old woman. I want you to picture what it takes to still be getting into a rowing shell at 86. Not only did she get into the rowing shell, she drove 6 hours to Vermont, realized that she didn't have her medication, drove 6 hours back, stayed overnight at home, she and her husband, and then drove the next day to come and row for a couple of days. Imagine at 86. Think of the balance, the core. Imagine your hips that still move. The nerve to sit in something narrow and unstable and push off from a dock. Nobody arrives at 86 with that by accident. That is decades of drive and recovery in a rhythm the body could actually sustain. That is a person who never asked their body to hold on continuous drive phase for 6 years straight. That is what we are protecting, not your summer body, your 86-year-old body. The more you move, the longer you will be able to move. And the better you recover, the more you get to move. Rest, recover, and repeat. 3 things this week, not someday, this week. Number 1, count your ratio for 1 day. Just 1 day, not to fix it, to see it. Every time you go from one task straight into another one or nothing in between, make a mark. Paper, phone, whatever you have. At the end of the day, look at the mark and you're going to be shocked. And that shock is useful because you cannot change a ratio you have never measured. Number two, I want you to build one micro recovery into a transition you already have. Just pick one. The car before you walk into the door, the 3 minutes after you close your laptop, before you open the front door. 3 breaths. Exhale twice as long as the inhale. Exhale twice as long as the inhale. That's it. You are not adding time to your day. You are putting a run into a stroke that had none. You are adding recovery into your already busy life. And number 3, 20 minutes outside this week alone with nothing in your ear. Water if you can get to it. Trees if you can't, because I'm sure you could find a tree, a plant, something. Sit or walk, either one. No phone in your hand. And when your brain starts telling you this is a waste of time and you should be being productive, that's not wisdom. That is checking the boat, making your body go slower instead of allowing it to run and have that free speed. That is the same voice that tells the beginner in a rowing shell to rush the slide. Let the boat run. Get some glide. Stop hustling. If you just heard all that and something in you said, yes, but I need somebody to actually walk me through it, I built the thing for you. The 5-day Elevated Flo Challenge is 5 days of exactly that. Short, doable, built for a woman with a real job and real people depending on her. No overhaul, no quitting anything. 5 days of putting the recovery back into your stroke so your body can start to feel like it's collecting the run on all the work you have been doing. The wait list is open right now and the wait list gets in first. The link is in the description. Go put your name on it before you forget because of your busy schedule. I know you will. And if you got something out of this episode, do 2 things for me. Send it to a woman who is running on empty and calling it normal, and leave a comment and subscribe to the channel for more, because that is how the next woman finds this show. That's all for this episode. Until next time, this is Coach Flo signing off. Remember to find your zone and elevate your flow. Peace.
1